I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Hi, I'm James Rule, and welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast. Today we're talking about the talent trap and why talent alone isn't enough. So what do I mean by that? Well, I think from a very young age, we're indoctrinated with this notion that talent equals success. And if you haven't got natural talent, then you're never going to reach the top of your academic field or your sporting field or your musical field, whatever it may be. And I was no different. That message was coming through to me loud and clear as a young man during my school days. But I had a journey of discovery, if you will, and I started to recognize that, yes, talent is a wonderful thing, and we're all blessed with different levels of natural talent, but it isn't the only determinant of success. And that initial insight has proven to be something that I absolutely wholeheartedly believe in. And my journey, both in leadership, in business, in all aspects of life, have reinforced the notion that talent is a part of the puzzle, but it isn't the only determinant. As I say, you have to put some other core ingredients to really reach the top of the game. And I believe in that because I've seen it, I've experienced it personally. I've also experienced it with a wide range of people that I've coached and that I have mentored, and they have a set of traits. And the important thing here is we're not belittling talent. Absolutely not. I was surrounded by some of my peers at school that had unbelievable natural talent, particularly on the sporting field. They could turn the hand to anything: tennis, cricket, rugby, football. They just seemed to be blessed with an array of natural talent. But when I look back on that, they didn't all become elite performers in those fields. And so for those of you that have got natural talent, this episode is a nod to that and say congratulations. Please reflect on some of the things I'm talking about to harness them with your natural talent and really realize your potential. And for those that perhaps feel that they don't have a huge amount of natural talent, well, that's okay as well, because these topics that we're going to talk about today require zero talent. They're all about attitude, they're all about a mindset, and they're all about a willingness to have the discipline and the commitment to put them into play on a consistent daily basis. One of the books I came across early in my career was called Bounce by Matthew Syed, and he talked very much about the notion of hard work, this concept of putting 10,000 hours into something as a determinant for success. And many of you will have read that book, many of you will have heard that theory. What was interesting was he used real life examples. He talked about Tiger Woods, he talked about Mozart, he talked about the Williams sisters, and this notion that they were somehow sort of prodigies, just a natural talent that allowed them to burst onto the scene at a young age. But when he unpacked that, Tiger Woods, yes, was doing impressive things as a 20-year-old on the golf course, but he'd been playing since he was 2. The Williams sisters had a stellar career, but again, from a very, very early age, there was a racket in the hand. And Mozart, famed for his unbelievable ability to compose and create music, but he'd been involved in that since he was 5. And so that message really resonated with me. It feeds into what we said earlier about success being determined by a number of factors. Talent is one, but a willingness to work hard was something that I really embraced early in my life. That actually, I may not be the most talented of sportsmen, for instance, but if I work hard, I can see success. And I took that into my leadership as well, and into the world of being a CEO. It's not necessarily that you are the most talented in every facet, but putting into place some of the things we're talking about helps you realize your potential. And there's a sporting example that many of you will have heard, but it's worth revisiting, and that's around Tom Brady. Tom Brady, not to date this podcast, but relatively recently, retired as one of the most successful American football players of all time. Multiple Super Bowl winner. But actually what's interesting, when you go back into the draft system where professional teams pick their players, he was the 199th pick in that particular draft. So 198 players picked before him by teams. So you would argue that they didn't see a lot of natural talent. And he's been quite candid and open when he talks about he wasn't the quickest, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the most dynamic or powerful. And yet he went on to be one of the most successful players of all time. And I think he's an individual that probably embodies a lot of the points that we're going to talk about today. So let's jump into them. I want to touch on these as traits, and I want you to reflect on them as ever and think, can I do more in these areas? Am I maximizing this particular facet of my life? Because there is no excuse to say, well, I'm not very talented. This is nothing to do with talent. These are ingredients that high performers access and utilize to realize their full potential. Are you accessing them? Are you realizing your full potential? So the first area I want to touch on is work ethic. This is, without doubt, a non-negotiable for sustained high performance. I'm yet to meet a high performer in any discipline, in any field, that doesn't have a relentless work ethic. And what I love about that is open to all of us. We can all set dreams, we can all have aspirations, but are we willing to then facilitate the pursuit of those dreams and goals with a relentless work ethic? And step back, look around people you admire and respect in your personal life, professionally, from afar, sportsmen or women, musicians. Invariably, when you lift the lid and explore their journey, you will find that a core part of what they do and who they are is that unrelenting work ethic. A sportsman that jumps to mind, Kobe Bryant, tragically passed away recently, but a man who was famed for his work ethic. He actually had a concept behind it, the Mamba mentality, he called it, where he switched into that zone. And so many sportsmen and women are willing to go to those levels of work ethic to create results. Now, that's not to say I want to intimidate people, say you must work relentlessly, work all hours. No, but embrace the fact that actually very few people get to the top just on natural talent, with a God-given gift that allows them to sail effortlessly through life. The reverse is true. Invariably, they're willing to work hard, and that work yields results. And that's why this is such an important opening point. Therefore, we can all do that. Now, can we all become a world-famous superstar quarterback, basketball player? Well, no. There may be some genetic barriers to doing that, but the principle is undoubtedly true. Can we all become successful, and can we all make quantum leaps in our ability to achieve our goals and aspirations by embedding an unrelenting work ethic? Absolutely, a resounding yes to that. The second area to consider is a willingness to be open to coaching and feedback. Now, again, you might just let that wash over you and say, yeah, that's me. But is it really you? How do you react when somebody brings constructive criticism to your door? Do you become defensive? Do you become combative? Do you become aggressive? Do you take it as a personal slight or insult? Or do you accept it, reflect on it, and see whether there's any merit to improve your future performance? For the vast majority, we drift into the former rather than the latter position. But the best performers recognize that they never stop learning, and they have to be open to coaching and development from wherever it comes from. Now, sports are great illustration of this, because the elite world-class players don't get to a level in any discipline and say, well, that's me done. Nobody coach me. I will turn up on game day with my kit and I will step out and play, because I don't need anything from anybody, because I'm the finished article. Of course they don't do that. They have all manner of coaches, from their mindset to their nutrition to their strength and conditioning, designed to try and find those 1% gains in performance. So if they're willing to do it, why can't we do that? In whatever career, whatever line of work you are in, be open to coaching and feedback. Don't take feedback as a personal critique. Yes, of course, if somebody's being aggressive or abusive, that's not something that I'm saying just sit and embrace and take that. But if somebody's genuinely offering you an ability to reflect on your professional or personal performance, then open your mind to it. The best performers never stop learning, and there is insight and wisdom all around you that, when we truly open our minds to accept it, allows us to become the ultimate winner. Why wouldn't we want to take any and all elements of feedback that make us a more competent performer? And it doesn't take talent, it just takes a willingness to open our mind and reflect on the feedback we're being given. And this takes me nicely into the third core area to consider, and that's preparation. We can gain all the coaching and feedback we want, but what are we going to do with that information? And again, that may be physical preparation for a sportsman or sportswoman. It may be mental preparation. It could be, for those of us in business, nothing to do with sport. It could be how we prepare for a presentation, the intelligence we gather, the material we study in order to develop that presentation, and then the time spent rehearsing and streamlining our delivery so that when our moment comes, when we get a chance to present that report to that audience, we nail it. We optimize our performance. And I like to use sport because that's a big part of my background. But people that I've worked with, people that I've had the pleasure of meeting, you see this level of preparation. Sportsmen and women, they prepare themselves, then they spend time watching video and assessing their opponents. And they're constantly going back to my earlier point, seeking insights and guidance to allow them to improve and then implementing that. And it's no surprise, and think about the people that you admire, people in your network, people professionally, socially, the ones that achieve are the ones that prepare. There's no shortcut to success. Yes, occasionally we can all get away with that proverbial winging it, to just do things off the cuff. But whatever's important to you, when you prepare, you will succeed. Now, I love to present. I enjoy public speaking, but I never ever wing it. I'll always prepare in depth. I enjoy sharing knowledge on this podcast, but there's a high level of preparation before I record a presentation. I remember having the ultimate honor of being a best man for two of my closest friends. Naturally, as all best men do, you have to deliver a speech on arguably the most important day, perhaps second only to the birth of children, if that comes to pass. But somebody's wedding day is such a critically important and huge occasion, and you have the honor of standing up and making a speech. You have to do that honor justice. So on both occasions, I made sure there was a high level of preparation to deliver a speech worthy of that honor. Moving from preparation into the next area I want you to consider, energy. That is within our wheelhouse to decide, what energy do I bring? Am I bringing an infectious positive energy, or am I an energy drainer with a negative outlook and that despondent that influences everyone around us? And again, with all of these attributes, I encourage you to think about people that resonate with you, people you admire and respect. When you go back through these points, do they have a strong work ethic? Are they open to coaching and feedback? Do they spend a huge amount of time preparing to optimize their performance? And what sort of energy do they bring? Somebody that popped into my mind recently was The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, a guy who's had multiple chapters to his career, both in terms of the wrestling world, the movie world, but you don't often see a downbeat, downcast, low energy representation of him. He tends to bring high levels of energy and positivity whenever you see him. So energy is something that we can tap into. We can make a conscious decision to bring energy, to inspire those around us. And people talk a bit about fake it till you make it, which I don't really like the notion of faking anything. But sometimes there is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. If you want to carry yourself in a low and despondent way, we can take our tone of voice down, we can slope into our body language, we can drop our head and slope our shoulders, and we start to feel low energy, we start to feel more despondent, or we can choose to shoulders back, chest out, raise our energy, raise the timbre of our voice, and actually things start to feel and look differently. So I think it's a really simple but easy area of focus to reflect on. What sort of energy are you bringing to your day-to-day tasks? Is it serving you and optimizing your ability to execute those tasks at the very highest level? And I've sort of stolen the thunder of my next point here, but the overlap, as a lot of these points do, and that is body language. What does your body language say about you? And we've just put it in that context of energy, but also it relates to confidence, it relates to your ability to inspire. Are you more likely to follow and be inspired by a colleague or a leader who's upbeat, positive, stands tall, stands proud, and oozes a sense of confidence and energy? Well, that's attractive. We're drawn to that. Conversely, someone that's slumped away, downbeat, downcast, they don't inspire. Actually, that can create a sense of fear and anxiety. Oh, my leader doesn't look particularly vibrant or robust. They must be thinking this isn't going to work. Oh, well, if they're panicking, I need to panic. And so our body language has a massive impact on our own mindset, but it also has an impact on those around us. And again, you'll be sick of me saying it during this podcast. Test that notion for yourself. Who are you drawn to? Who do you admire? I'm pretty certain they don't articulate a very, very negative, downcast body language for the majority of time you spend with them. It'll be quite the opposite. And it doesn't take any talent to become conscious of our body language. I've talked about this in previous episodes. People reportedly, and the science seems to be there to back this up, make their mind up about people that they meet for the first time within seconds. Seconds, not minutes, not hours. They make a snap judgment before you've had chance to deliver a big presentation or present in depth about who you are, what you stand for. So if we've got seconds, then our body language is one of the biggest determinants of how we present ourselves to other people. Why not maximize the opportunity to make sure that that first impression is as good as it possibly can be by having a really confident and dynamic body language? Another core area that I want you to reflect on is punctuality, being on time. For me, it's just the ultimate mark of respect. Ex-Navy SEAL Jocko Willink talks about this a lot. He talks about discipline equals freedom, and one of the core components of discipline is just being on time. It takes commitment, it takes discipline, and that manifests in so many areas of our life. And I agree. Yes, there are isolated examples where there's been a major road closure or a logistical headache. The airport delayed your flight, or you missed the train for reasons beyond your control. I accept that on big logistical challenges like that, there's very little you can do. However, now that we've got that barrier out the way, what about those small, almost seemingly incidental occurrences that might be happening each and every day? Do you frequently rush into a meeting 5 minutes after it started? Sorry, I'm late. Do you jump onto virtual Teams calls, Zoom calls, again, apologizing? Sorry, I'm late. Something happened here, there, wherever. Do you find in your social network, family gatherings, a date with your partner, watching your children at a sports practice, that you are always late? Now, there's no judgment here, but in my experience, people that are late in one facet of their life are late in all facets. It bleeds into their personal and their professional. And the reality here is nobody gains from this. When you are late, it's perceived as a mark of disrespect, whether people articulate it to you or not. Put yourself in their shoes. Somebody is giving up time to sit with you or meet with you, and they have to sit there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for you to turn up, virtually or face to face. It doesn't set the meeting off in the right tone. If your child's hoping to see you on the sidelines, in the audience, as they kick off their school play or their sports practice, and they're frantically scanning the aisles, scanning the sidelines, scanning the seats, and you're not there yet, does that give them a sense of confidence? No, it drains that confidence. So again, no judgment here, but we have to have the discipline to structure our time and our meetings to create the buffer and to give ourselves the chance to be on time. I've talked about this in the Setting Our Standards High episode. And international sports teams like the All Blacks, who I admire, who do wonderful things over many, many decades, I've heard them talk about everybody setting their clocks early so that people are always on time. Now, I'm not saying you have to start fiddling with your watches and your own timekeeping, but the principle there is important to me, that it's so important to be on time that they actually fiddle with their clocks so that they can never be late. The next area to consider is doing extra. Now, from a young age, there is the minimum requirement. We are given tests at school, pieces of homework, and we can just do it and get it done. And that manifests into later life. We're given tasks, assignments, things that we need to get off our desk, and we can just do it to a level and get it done. Or we can be willing to go that extra mile, to do that little bit extra. And we will win as a consequence, because everybody's going to do the basics. Everyone's going to do the minimum. But when you go to that next level, it creates a ripple effect. People notice it, people start to reflect on your contribution, your personal professional brand rises as a consequence, new opportunities come your way, and it doesn't take a huge amount of time to do that little bit extra. Now, again, it's an easy one from a sporting analogy. I've been blessed in my CEO roles within the sport sector to have been able to work alongside elite, world-class high performers. And it's interesting because often you'd sign players, perhaps they're getting towards the back end of their career, they're into their 30s, but they are always willing to do the extras. And I would always encourage those young junior players, those rookie players coming through, maybe they're 18, 19 years of age, look at that individual. They've played for the country. They've been a world-class recognized talent. Does that mean they finish earlier than everyone else? They come in later than everyone else? No, quite the contrary. That analogy of Philo, first in, last out, that would often be the case with these elite performers. They'd be in earlier than most, doing additional conditioning work or doing additional preparation, stretching work to prepare for the sessions ahead. And then they'd be one of the last out. They would cool down effectively. They would again be doing more stretching and rehabilitation work. And that set a standard. And people see that standard and it ripples out through the team. And so I would always encourage you, I'm not saying that I'm contradicting my messages in previous episodes about finding balance. Yes, we need balance. I'm not saying that doing extra means you have to be at work 18, 19-hour days, but we all know deep down in our core when we are just doing something a little bit slapdash just to get it off our plate versus just applying ourselves that little bit more to deliver it to a standard that we're truly proud of. If that was the only piece of work anybody in your organization was going to see, and that was the barometer by which they assessed you as an individual and your professional competency, are you happy with it? Would you be happy for that to be shared around the board to say, this is Andy's best work? If the answer is no, then we need to reflect and say, could we do a little bit more? Are we missing out on opportunities to do that little bit extra? I want to touch on the power of a positive attitude. Now, you might say this is very, very similar to energy, and yes, to a degree it is. Our energy can be reflected in how we carry ourselves. It links into body language, it links into our tone, etc. Attitude can be perceived through our energy, but sometimes it's an internal thing as well. It's not always those external indicators. And I think it starts in our own head, with our own mindset, having a positive attitude that whatever challenge comes our way, we believe we can find solutions, we can overcome whatever setback, whatever challenge is presented to us. And having that inner belief and that as a default setting is so much more powerful than, oh, now I've got this to deal with. Oh, why is this happening? Oh, I haven't got time for this. This is just relentless, negative after negative after negative. We can start to create that negative attitude, that negative self-talk. It's very difficult then to execute with confidence and with high levels of energy. Whereas if we can flip that around and say, okay, rather not be in this situation, but I believe in myself. I've been here before. I've overcome worse. I can overcome this. Let's get after it. What are the controllables? What's my first step? Who do I need to engage with? Off we go. That positive attitude is so much more powerful for compelling ourselves to take action. And it goes without saying, people around us pick up on it in the same way they pick up on our energy and our body language. So all of these points that we're talking about today, very, very powerful for you as an individual, equally powerful for you as a leader, because as we always say, our team are watching our words and our actions closely, and they take their lead from them. So a positive attitude is something you want to represent and ensure that that is embedded with everybody in your team. And last but not least, kindness. Now, that might sound a bit whimsical, but as I've often said in previous episodes, I make no apology for that, because everything I share is based on my own personal journey as a CEO and a leader, and the journey of working alongside people as a coach and mentor. You never fail when you lead with kindness. You will always get an upside. It's a way to make people feel valued. It's a way to draw people towards you. It builds that connectivity. It builds that loyalty. You get a much higher performing, happier team when you find the ability to demonstrate kindness. And it sounds so, as I say, whimsical to talk about something like that. Well, how do you quantify it? You know how you quantify it. I'm not saying that you should be a soft touch, that you allow the tail to wag the dog, that anybody can do anything they want. There are no standards and there's no discipline and there's no coordination of what's going on in the organization. I'm not saying that. That you can still be a taskmaster, you can still hold people to standards, but you find opportunities for kindness. Somebody's got challenges in their personal life, you give them some time to deal with it. Somebody's made a particular mistake or they've tripped and they've fallen. Well, you're alongside them to help them learn from that and to pick them up. Nobody truly responds to the dictatorial, aggressive, competitive boss, but everybody will feel that a connection and that loyalty to somebody who's willing to show them kindness. We're all human beings. We respond to that. So you can deliver a tough message, but it can still be delivered with kindness. You can hold people to standards, but you can do it with kindness. And again, have a think about the leaders that you have enjoyed working with the most. Invariably, part of their DNA will be that you know that they truly care about you and they bring kindness to the table in their leadership style. Now, as usual, I'm hoping as we work through this episode, you'll be reflecting and you'll be thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? And I think my call to action would be do a little personal audit. Do an audit on everything we've talked about. These traits. Am I bringing the highest level of work ethic? Do I need to set a higher standard? How open am I to coaching and feedback? Do I tend to get defensive and almost aggressive when people come up with feedback, or am I truly open to it? Am I preparing to the best of my ability? Is there a little bit more I could do to raise the standards of my performance? What sort of energy do I consistently bring? Am I infecting people with that contagious high energy, or am I actually bringing a lot of negative, low-level energy and running the risk of infecting them with that? Think about how you carry yourself. What does your body language look like? How would your staff see your body language? Think about your punctuality. Are you respecting people in your professional and personal network or disrespecting them by being consistently on time, early, or consistently late? Could you do a little bit extra? Time back into that preparation point. What would be the results if you just applied that little bit more? Your physical health is that easy example I use all the time. We can say, well, I'll work out once a week and that would give us some benefit, but if we raise that frequency and we do that little bit more, we're going to see the results. Where can you see the results in all aspects of your life by doing a little bit more? And where are those areas for kindness? Where does somebody need that arm around the shoulder and a little bit of encouragement after a tough period or period of underperformance or falling to a certain mistake or failure? And who needs that little bit of recognition of high achievement? Just a personal note of thanks, a gesture to say, really appreciate what you've achieved. Look for the opportunities, being open to deliver kindness. They're all around us on a daily basis. So as ever, thank you for your ongoing feedback. It really does help me shape the future content of the Lonely Leader podcast. I hope once again that while some of this will be a tick, yes, I do A, B, C particularly well, there'll be enough in here for you to say, yeah, some rooms for improvement. And remember, none of this is about talent. It doesn't matter what you're born with. Each and every one of those facets we've talked about today, you can enhance if you want to. If you're willing to bring the discipline and the commitment to do it, you can do it. And your performance in all aspects of life will improve as a consequence. Best of luck with the journey. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.